Jesus is the Son of God who was sent down in order to atone for our sins. He fills the roles of priest, prophet, and king, as many people did in the Old Testament, and he's like the completion of that story. In order to understand how he atoned for our sins, we first need to understand why. Why do we even need atoning in the first place? Like, what went wrong? This starts back with the creation account in Genesis. Um, God made the world, and everything was slowly growing in perfection towards eventual rest with God. We see just the way that he would set up a habitat for the animals or the fish or the people, and then he would fill that. And it was slowly becoming more and more perfect and complete till eventually he created man and woman. Um, then he rested, and that's what we were supposed to do with him in his presence. But that got messed up pretty quickly when Adam and Eve both sinned by eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In order to make up for this sin of pride, we couldn't do it on our own because we could never give God something worthy of that love and mercy. So we knew that eventually God was going to have to enter into his creation because he's the only one that could actually pay that debt we aren't able to. Um, there's a lot of foreshadowing that happens in the Old Testament to show that this is what's going to happen. There's a lot of characters that are like called a beloved son. For example, these characters are all in God's nation of Israel, who's his chosen people, and we know that eventually from this line, Jesus will come. He told Abraham this. Um, Abraham's son Isaac is one of those beloved son figures where he was going up. He was going up to be sacrificed by Abraham, and he was willing to do this. He carried the wood up by himself, and he knew what was going to happen, but he was still willing to do it anyway. That's what Jesus was going to be. He was going to have to be somebody that knew what was going to happen and was innocent, completely innocent, and had to sacrifice himself to God for us. When we get to the New Testament, this is when we see this happen. We know that he's comes from that line of Abraham through that genealogy at the very beginning of Matthew. So this is the one. And as soon as after he's baptized, the Father says, like, this is my beloved Son with whom I'm well pleased. And from then on, we know exactly what kind of life Jesus is going to live and what will happen to him. So Jesus dies on the cross for us, and this completely makes up for our sins and allows us to have life with God forever in heaven. Through his death and then rising, where he defeats death and sin, we're able to enter into that communion. Um, and then he ascends. So that's we'd have to see him in heaven again if we get there. Um, but a lot of people are confused with Christianity and think that it's just like only the ideas matter. It doesn't really matter if Jesus existed or not. But this isn't true because if Jesus never existed and he didn't die, then we aren't actually forgiven of our sins, as Paul says.